everybody to this Saturn moon tutorial. We're going to rebuild this effect together. It's a very nice effect. I hope by the end of this tutorial you can play with this effect as much as you want and use it in any project you want. Let's talk about the main idea. The main idea is to have some particles spawning in a circle. So we need to have first a circle for that. Then the particles on top of the circle. Then we're going to use these circles and simulate like a wavy ring. Then we are going to bind all of these particles, and from this we're going to build a tyflow. So now we will have the same circle from the beginning, but with a natural animation from the simulation. Then from here we're going to use this as a path deform modifier for a plane, and this plane will be following the line. We're going to use this path deformed shape and convert it into cloth, and then we're going to collide a sphere that is going to be following this line again and collide with the effect. So everything should be procedural. If we change something in this simulation here, everything will be following. So that's the main idea. So let's execute it. First, we're going to build the circle more or less like this. Let's center it, and then we're going to apply a normalized spline. There it is. I'm going to show nodes, make it linear, use a count, and I want to use like something like 100 should be fine. After this we're going to build our first simulation. Let's open a tyflow. So now we're going to burst spline and select our spline. I'm going to hide my circle and I want to show sprites. Now you can see here we're spanning particles over the circle. Let's use the knots we placed before. So now let's try to use a force here and play with it. Let's try to add a noise and see what's happening. You can see they are deforming very good. This deformation is going infinitely to everywhere, and we don't want this. We want them to be constantly trying to come back to the circle. So I'm going to use an object bind, and I'm going to pick the circle, and let's play with the linear spring because this allows everything to be more flexible. 1%, and you can see now it's trying to come back to the line. This is more or less what we want. So now let's try to use a particle physics so they collide if they are together. We're going to use the shape radius, it's okay. So now let's try to add a particle binding. Particle bind, there it is. Let's show the bind to see what happened. Right now we don't have any binding because by default it's by distance. You can see it here. If we increase the multiplier of the distance, now they are binding together. But we don't want to use proximity binds. We want to use another property. They are siblings. So let's find the family binding, which is this over here. And let's apply bind to siblings. This is the first and the last particle. So we need to bind first and last sibling. You can see now everything is working perfectly. I like to use another property to limit the bendiness. Usually I use the angle bind because this restricts the angle of the bindings and it gives you a more clean line like this. Let's see it before and after. This is really nice. It's giving us a very soft and beautiful effect. Let's put more frames here, like 200, and make it 24 in film. And now we can see here this is moving in a very interesting way. I kind of like it. Let's leave it like this. Now we need to evolve the force because it's like looping everything. Let's make a frequency here in the noise of the force, and now it should be evolving somehow and not repeating the same pattern, more or less. I know the cloth simulation will help a lot with this. Let's increase the frequency a little bit more. Let's see, more or less it's like that. Finally, I would like to use a slow operator because I think it will help to this zero gravity effect. Let's play with 5 by default and let's see. And you can see this is more or less something interesting to drive our simulation. Okay, right now we have accomplished the first part. Let's go for the second one. I'm going to hide the display. So let's try to create a time spline from these pindings. Let's add the time spline operator, create new one, and let's use the sibling option. Here you can hide the tyflow now, and you can see we have an error here. We have something going on here. It's not welding the first and the last particle yet. So let's go to time spline, to the welding section, and say close all subsplines. From here, I think I like to delete the time spline measure because I don't need it. I want to confirm what is going on here. We can see here we're having some kind of interpolation, so let's make it linear in the time spline, and now we can check. This is really good. I'm going to turn off again the render and viewport because we just need this. Right now we have our time spline being affected by our tyflow. This is very good. We have accomplished the second phase. Let's go to the next part. We need to build this ring effect. So let's try to make a simple plane. Let's make this simple. Let's center this. I think we should add some extra segments for this. This should be enough. So let's go to the frame number 0 and add the path deform. Here it is. Let's select our time spline, and you can see it's using another axis. Let's play with it. This is the closest one. I'm going to automatically fill the line. Let's use the look at option and select again the time spline. I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees because I want to see the normals to the top, but everything is okay. So let's go to the next phase. We need to convert this mesh in an actual cloth simulation. Let's call this something like ring emitter plane. Let's add another tyflow. Now we need the birth object. Here we can pick our plane. If you don't have the hide after adding check mark here, you can hide it manually here, so you don't see the original shape. Now you can see it's not doing anything. It's not following the plane effect. I mean this plane should be followed by our new shape from tyflow, but it's not happening. So let's see what we can do. Right now this is one shape, so it's just one particle. We need to convert this in a cloth bind, so every vertex is a particle. Cloth bind. Now we have 23,040 particles. This is correct, but now it's not moving yet. We need to follow the original shape. Let's play with the object bind once again and use for reference our ring emitter plane. If we leave it like this, nothing happened. If we lock it to the surface, it's going to follow exactly the surface. But we don't want this. We need some kind of influence, not too much. So maybe this will help again. The linear spring with a very low force. It's really nice. But what's going on here? We can see we have a gap here because our ring emitter plane is isolated. Here should have some kind of separation. Why? Because our plane is flat and the path deform is closing it, but it's not welding it. You can confirm this if we can find the if we can find the, there it is. This is the shape not being welded. I like to use for this effect the tie weld. It's really robust. You can see here, tie weld. And now this should be fixed. Let's exit the isolation mode and let's check again. Now we have a solid cloth. So for now we have a very nice cloth effect. I'm not using CUDA yet, and it's very solid because every vertex is distant, so we are not having any collision issues. Let's bring the sphere now. We're going to use a geosphere because I think it's better for simulation. Right now we're going to use again the path deform because I think it's easier to control. I'm going to pick the tyflow spline again, and you can see if we move the percent, it's going to do this. So let's try to animate this maybe from this side, from the back part of Saturn, which is 25%, to the end, and the end should be something like here, and we can see is 125%. Let's see it in real time. This is what's going to happen. Okay, now it's going too deep in the actual cloth. This will give us problems. So I'm going to move a little bit the ball to the top. Maybe it's too much. Like this should be fine. We need this cloth to be colliding with the actual ball. So let's open again the tyflow of the cloth and add a collision operator here, and let's select our ball. Now it should be colliding all the time with the ball, but what's going on here? You can see this is fighting here because these particles are being spawned inside of the ball, so somehow we need to animate this entrance of the ball. So I'm going to animate this offset here to start here, and then a few frames later I'm going to bring it down again, something to where it was, something like that. Now everything should start perfectly. Okay, this is what's going on. Let's check it out. Let's inspect what are we having here. The ball is colliding here, and you can see here we're having kind of a mess here. Usually this can be corrected by increasing the time steps in the tyflow. Let's see if we can solve it without using CUDA yet. Let's bring this to half a frames. We're having a better result, but here we're still fighting, so let's increase it once again to 4. Now we're having a better result. Let's keep inspecting the ball. You can see here our ball is doing something crazy. It's being deformed somehow, maybe in our path deform, and this can give us problems. So let's go to the geosphere and check this preserve form checkbox. Now nothing can be distorting the ball. This should be solid. Let's check it again. I'm going to save and test again our simulation. Yes, this is getting robust now. There's another error here. Let's try to add more resolution to our ring and also crank up more of the substeps. Let's select the ring emitter plane and use a turbo smooth. Of course, now we will have a nicer effect, more ripples and things. Let's disable the geometry here so we can only see this. This is more like a natural cloth. You can see some error here, so let's crank up also a little bit more here. I hope now we can fix this. Let's try to cache all of this to see what happened. Okay, I achieved better results with 1 divided by 8, and now that everything is cached, you can see everything is working really fine. So for those not having the paid version of tyflow, now you know you can use this option to achieve the cloth effects. Now for faster results and more accurate ones, I'm going to switch again to one. I'm going to use the CUDA cloth, because the CUDA is a very solid solution. Simply don't have any errors. I'm going to use the CUDA cloth, self collisions, and you can see now this should be working like a charm, because CUDA is colliding with everything. Simply does the work perfectly and nothing goes wrong. There it is. If we increase the sub steps here, we're going to give to the cloth more strength. You can feel like it's more rigid, but I kind of like this effect exactly like this. It's like wobbling a lot and it's really fast, so I'll leave it like this. I will select this tyflow cloth and I'm going to add some modifiers here. First of all, I'm going to add a shell, but not for the top part, of course. I'm going to add it for the lower part. I'm going to add a segment here, and I would like to chamfer the edges. But how can we chamfer the edges? There is a way. I want to select the edges, and here I want to apply a chamfer. And now we can have a interesting chamfer here. I want to use a very high angle, like 45, and this is going to be okay. Let's try to add another segment, and here you can check we're having good results. Try to find some errors on the simulation, maybe in the higher peaks like this. So here we're having some broken normals because we are lacking resolution. So let's try to add more resolution. A turbo smooth should be fine. And of course you can add a second one. Okay, for now we have this beautiful effect. Of course we need a U-sphere in the middle to mimic the Saturn shape. Maybe we need it. Of course we can add some relaxation here for this part. Let's try it. Before the shell, let's try to add a tie relax here. You can see it's giving us, yeah, right there. That's the sweet spot here. Yeah, a little bit more here. There it is. If you want this effect like it was and not use the tie relax too much, you can increase here in the tyflow the thickness of the self collision and try to use the same number we saw in the shell modifier, which was 95 centimeters. Let's update this again and let's see what's going on now. That's it. Now the cloth beam knows it is thicker, the same amount, so everything should be really fine now. Either way, I'm going to add a little tie relax because I want these shapes to be more soft some way. Yes, you can see there's a tiny difference, but it depends of what you want to achieve. Okay, so far we have the first part of the tutorial. I'm going to leave the second part of the tutorial for my Patreon, where you can learn how to map and texturize and make the materials and lighting and rendering of this effect. And of course I'm going to leave the .max files for the higher subscription. So if you like this, hit like and subscribe to the channel and also for Patreon, so you can be in tune with these cool effects I'm posting weekly. See you next time.